Hi everyone, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The fight between Elon Musk and President Trump. Amid the fallout between Elon Musk and President Donald Trump, I quote, President Trump said, "I am very disappointed in Elon. I have helped Elon a lot." Musk threatened to decommission SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. That's a big deal for US space missions. Dragon has been the only US spacecraft launched by a US space company, transporting astronauts to and from the station from the US. I find it to be disconcerting how quickly this went to the threatening from contracts. That's not good for the United States. Musk retreats just hours later, but still, this feud continues. SpaceX remains one of the largest financial and logistical vulnerability for both Musk and Trump. Since 2008, the government has awarded SpaceX more than $20 billion in contracts across at least 10 different agencies. Most of it is focused on NASA and SpaceX and how these two companies working together. And it is expected, according to Elon Musk, that SpaceX is expected to generate 1.1 billion in revenue this year from NASA. The company is less dependent on government contracts than it was in the past, but still does big businesses with government agencies. SpaceX has really deep relationships with a lot of government agencies. Unraveling that will not be easy for either side. NASA made a push during the Obama administration to give contract with commercial companies. I quote, Obama then said, "We want to help into the future. We want to live into the future." We had one launch provider at that time, United Launch Alliance. They were the result of a merger of a Lockheed and Boeing. When they consolidated, the cost went up, and the US lost market share to the rest of the world, namely China, France, and Russia. We set up competitions, and SpaceX has been by far the leader in these major competitions. Elon brought the cost of his Dragon down to under $1 billion and then under hundreds of millions. I mean, just the savings are wonderful from a customer perspective because I can now purchase services rather than have to do them all in-house myself. Since then, NASA has obligated more than $15 billion in awards to SpaceX, including $2.9 billion to develop a human landing system as part of the Artemis program. In 2022, NASA said the contract for ferrying astronauts to and from the International Space Station will total $4.9 billion. $4.9 billion. Beyond sort of the dollars and cents, though, as we have been talking about with these astronaut missions, it's SpaceX that has been allowing NASA to do some of its highest profile operations. When NASA says it's safe to fly on a SpaceX rocket, the world will follow. The governments, industries, anyone will say if it's good for NASA, it's good enough for us. SpaceX recently had to step in when another NASA contractor, Boeing, wasn't able to bring back 2 astronauts from the International Space Station. You remember those 2 astronauts that got stranded in space? Yes, Elon Musk brought those people back. The fact that SpaceX was tapped by NASA last summer to bring those 2 astronauts back to Earth, NASA did not want Boeing to sort of finish that job, shows how comfortable NASA is or has gotten over the years with using SpaceX and the trust that the agency has that the vehicle and the operation side of it works and can be safe. It is also very much did highlight the dependency NASA has on SpaceX for this particular type of operation. Between Starlink flight and missions for outside customers, SpaceX carried out nearly double the amount of launches than the next three most active companies combined. That is like a huge ongoing, business. And something that SpaceX is expected to be doing for years to come. Agencies also contract SpaceX experts on satellites, its growing and strategically important Starlink system. You see sort of Starlink popping in everything from military bases to government agencies needing some kind of satellite internet solution. One of the most notable contracts is one to provide Starlink to Ukraine. And another was in North Carolina. Remember what the president talked about? How he called Elon Musk to supply internet in North Carolina during the climate crisis, the weather disaster. Yes. And also a lot of military officials who are thinking about the future of war have been obsessed and really interested in how the Ukrainians have used Starlink and how their experience in that conflict zone was carried out, and has created just a lot of awareness at the Pentagon and frankly in governments around the world about the need for fast, reliable, secure communications in conflict areas. Starlink is also a big revenue generator for SpaceX outside of the government. Quilty Space, a consulting firm, estimated that Starlink revenue is set to grow to $12.3 billion this year. So Starlink has a very significant revenue source for SpaceX that is independent on government contracts and the budget cycle in Washington and all the rest. So SpaceX has a number of important future projects with the US government lined up. SpaceX, because they have been successful, have been built into this ecosystem and the architecture of future missions for both NASA and also the Department of Defense and other spacefaring agencies. So a lot of the US government is dependent upon SpaceX for their very good vehicles. It is not just responsible for shutting people and supplies to the International Space Station. It was also selected to deorbit the station at the end of its operational life in 2030. And in April 2025, the company was awarded almost $6 billion from the Department of Defense for future satellite launches. SpaceX also submitted a proposal for Trump's Golden Dome, a missile defense shield that combined ground-based interceptors with satellites. So a lot of people believe that SpaceX will have to be involved going further, one way or the other, because it has the most launch capacity. And of course, it's also developing a huge new vehicle that could potentially be involved in the future. So with all of this, what does it mean for SpaceX and NASA in Musk and Trump potential divorce? So when getting more competition is probably the biggest answer. We need competition in this space. We can see that SpaceX has been really dominant here. But we should also remember that Elon himself says he wants competition. Unfortunately, SpaceX is so far ahead in so many areas that will take years for someone to compete. So NASA experts think that a full breakup is unlikely. SpaceX, Elon have every incentive to do this work. But we will see. It is all support what his long-term vision is. As stated, he wants to colonize Mars. He wants life to be interplanetary. He wants human beings to live in Mars, to work in Mars, to die in Mars. Ideally, we can take anyone who wants to go to Mars to Mars. So a NASA spokesperson recently said in a statement that NASA will continue to execute upon the president's vision for the future of space. And that will continue, and they will continue to work with industry partners to ensure that the president's objectives in space are met. So overall, this is a great issue, a great threat for NASA and SpaceX. Next, we will talk about how this feud between President Trump and Elon Musk will impact AI, electric vehicles, robot taxis, and the rest.